الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Islamic Center at New York University podcast, coming to you straight from the heart of New York City. We're building an amazing Muslim community here at ICNYU where everyone is welcomed and respected no matter where you're from or where you're at. This is the place to be. So open your ears and your heart and come along with us on another life-changing journey. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the Master of the Day of Judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, to His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the master of the Day of Judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in his path until the last day. One of the more well-known scholars of our religion is a man by the name of Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, rahimahullah. They're known as a great scholar of the sciences of hadith, the prophetic tradition, its narrations, its meanings, an awareness at a deep level of those who have transmitted this particular knowledge as well. That a text that he writes that's a commentary on the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi, rahimahullah, is said to be one of the best commentaries on the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi written ever. And that he endeavored to do a commentary on the collection of hadith collected by Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah. They said that he passed away before its completion. He came from a lineage of scholars and had a deep connection to this faith. And in one of his books that's called Lataif al-Ma'arif, he mentions very explicitly in relation to the blessed month of Ramadan that the companions of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, they would spend their months after Ramadan making dua to Allah for just acceptance of their Ramadan. And in the months leading into it, they would just make dua asking Allah to allow for them to reach it. That 6 months of the year, this dua, Allahumma balighna Ramadan, the companions would make that, Ya Allah, make us those who would reach Ramadan. And then 6 months of the year, making the dua that many of us make consistently in our prayers. Rabbana taqabbal minna, that, oh Allah, accept from us. And for us, now just days away from this blessed month, you want to aspire to have that same zeal, that same recognition of what this beautiful month is about. What's interesting when this is framed now in relation to the companions of the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may Allah be pleased with all of them, radiyallahu anhum ajma'een. That quite often when we look at religion and we try to understand our relationship to what does the Quran actually tell us and what is the hadith really referencing, the ability to not look at stories of the Sahaba or the Seerah literature is something that is just stories in and of themselves, but to give us an opportunity to understand how practically, concretely, the religion actually manifested within the lives of different individuals at that time. Then when I started to study Islam and I asked some of my teachers, what are the things that you should do when you start to study this religion? And not necessarily in a formal way, but when we start to get excited at times and our identity now starts to formulate in a way where there's an awakening that many of us go through that says, I want to know more, where should I start? And one of the shuyukh, they said to me that if you were to start anywhere, start with the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. It's an important anchor to give you the capacity to recognize something concrete about this religion. Because when you study Quran and you study hadith and you study fiqh and you study all of these sciences and you can understand it against the backdrop of the Prophet's life, there's no room to be able to now engage in conversations that are theoretical, that seek to be culturally hegemonic in their attitude. It's not about, well, this is what my father did or my grandmother did, and they said that this is allowed and not allowed. You see how the Prophet lived the Quran. You see how he was walking, talking, the manifestation of it, and what he disseminated to his companions, the people around them. And these were people that for half of the year they made dua, Allahumma balighna Ramadan, that Ya Allah, let us just reach Ramadan. And then for the other half of the year, Ya Allah, just accept from us what comes from Ramadan. How did they get so excited about it? That they wanted this to be something that they were anticipating in such a way that their entire calendar year somehow incorporated the reality of this month that is just literally days away from us. May Allah make us from those who reach it and benefit from it. And may He put into our hearts a deep desire to long for it. You gotta long to fast those days. You gotta long to stand in its nights. Not to be in a place where you start to formulate and structure routine in such a way that creates obstacles that don't need to be obstacles. But to recognize and understand that the paradigm shift comes from within. And you can now determine for yourself what is something that is of value to you. Ibn Ata'illah, rahimahullah, one of the great scholars of our religion, that many of us are familiar with the text that he writes, the hikam, his aphorisms, his wisdoms. He essentially gives to us an illustration, detecting now this idea of where it is subjective, what is something that is of value to me versus what is something of value to the rest of creation. And the example that he utilizes is revolving around something that would be of value to you as a human. If somebody was to put together an entire bag filled of something that was precious to you, dollars, jewels, diamonds, gold, and they were to place that in the middle of this space, versus they were to take that bag filled with wealth, gold, riches, and stick it in the middle of a field where cattle are grazing. The way humanity might flock to the bag of gold, thinking that this will now suffice me for what it is that I need. None of those cows are going to race after that bag of gold. It means nothing to them. But if you were to take now a bag and fill it with mulch, with grass, with things that livestock graze upon, the same way that they would be drawn to it, and we put it now in the midst of this room and said, here's some grass, go get it. Not that kind of grass. But you know what I mean. Likely none of you would touch it. The value in and of itself is subjective. What it is that Ibn Ata'illah is teaching us is that you determine what is important in your life. And the companions of the Messenger, they were in such a place where Ramadan was of such an importance to them that they spent half of the year just making dua to reach Ramadan because they wanted it so badly. They wanted to be in a place where they could experience it and engage it and take from it. And they wanted its benefit to last for them, that for the other half of the year, their dua was, Ya Allah, just accept it from us. How do you build that kind of excitement? How do you build that kind of connection? The paradoxical nature of the self is that we understand ourselves through ourselves. You can only know you through you. You cannot know you through me. There's a means by which we can be supportive of one another that the hadith tells us that we are mirrors to each other. There's an opportunity for us to be a mechanism of support, a mechanism of reflection to help us be in a place where we can keep each other on track. And may Allah make us true sisters and brothers of one another, and those who honor the rights of all creation. But fundamentally, you want to know about you, you just have to look at you. We have everybody just move up close. Me come in really tight. It's going to get filled up in here. And some of that reflection is a challenge at times. A vulnerability, not to anybody else, but a vulnerability to me, to be able to say that, you know what, I did do the wrong that I did. I did get to a place where I committed that heinous act of lying and cheating and backbiting and gossiping. I don't treat people well. I don't keep my promises. I don't honor my oaths. I have not sought the apologies that I need to seek. I have made excuses, not explanations for my behavior that justify atrocious things that came from my hands, from my mouth, from my eyes. And it's hard to admit it. Just like it's hard to admit my own potential for being a source of light and beauty. That I actually could get up for Fajr. I actually could hold the door open for the person behind me. I actually do have some dollars that I could give to somebody in need, and I have the time and capacity to find out what the needs are of the people around me. I have the knowledge, I have the skills, I have the credentials. And just like some of us are scared to admit our areas of improvement, some of us are afraid to actually embrace the luminosity that we possess. This becomes relevant in the frame of Ramadan because Ramadan is an opportunity now for us to engage the self and reach an epitome of self-actualization, but you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And the starting point has to be rooted in not just are you excited, but what are you excited about? And I'm excited to sit and break fast with all of you. Me personally, I'm saying this. Khalid Latif wants to sit with this community in Ramadan. But as much as I love each one of you, I'm more excited to just commune with my Lord. I want to be in a place where I can help facilitate fasts for people breaking their fasts and to raise money for people in charity and to do all of these things. May Allah make it easy for us. But I'm also excited because I want to fast for the sake of Allah. And if I was in a place where I did not have the capacity to sit with such amazing people like yourselves every day and night of Ramadan, I'd still be excited about Ramadan. And you got to be excited too. Not for reasons that are rooted simply in things that are outward and external, but things that are rooted within yourself. The seerah plays a great connection point to this, as we mentioned just some moments ago, to make concrete the actual realities that Ramadan creates for us to be able to reach our best. And if you look at the prophetic biography and you see what actually transpires in the month of Ramadan, it's not anything short of miraculous. The kind of things that are taking place in that time with those people are things that would leave you in a place that said, they did this in Ramadan? The Quran itself gives us a primary insight. Shahru Ramadan, it says, the month of Ramadan, in it is which the Quran was sent down. Your Prophet ﷺ sought solitude on a regular, consistent basis. It was part of his habit that he separated himself from the Meccan society in which he lived so that he could better understand how the society functioned and what his role was within it. And many of us in this room know the narrations that speak to us about what was transpiring on that one fateful day when the Prophet ﷺ gets the initial revelation. Iqra, read. It all happens in Ramadan. That's what the Quran says. Revelation begins in this beautiful month. And it's not just that revelation begins in the beautiful month that is of a benefit for all of us, but the Prophet has that opening to receive revelation in this beautiful month. You can't divorce the two from one another. Ramadan presents to you opportunity for openings as well. You know it, because some of you turn into 10 times the Muslim you were at the rest of the year. You think about people that you don't see in the rest of the calendar year. And arrogance is very subtle. May Allah protect us from it. Be the reason if it's the first time somebody comes, it's not the last time. Don't be the reason as to why somebody gets pushed away. We live in a world that is not rooted in our system of ethics. You could turn on any screen at any given point in time, and what you are going to see, hear, listen to, consume is rooted in a value system that is not based off of what this religion teaches us. It's hard for people. Be the reason that they have ease, not the reason they have more difficulty. In Ramadan, the Prophet gets revelation. You can build it into not a secondary, but other things that in the immediate happen within the blessed month of Ramadan. That he goes in a frenzy now to his house, and Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha becomes the first Muslim to accept Islam. It happens in Ramadan. And you want to just think for a moment, they don't know what's going to happen in the days ahead. But they had, for that moment, the reality that is just the two of them, and that suffices, subhanAllah. You can look ahead in the prophetic biography, and in the second year after Hijrah, there's a battle that many of us know of that's called the Battle of Badr, where the Quraysh, they outnumber 3-1 the Muslims in terms of armies that assemble to take each other on in combat now. The Prophet ﷺ in the late hours of the night is turning to Allah in dua because the odds are not in their favor, the odds are against them. And if you understand the hadith in its entirety, the numbers of the Muslims are actually at the level that they are because people from Medina, the Ansar, have opted to join them. But when the Prophet comes to the Ansar for the first time, one of the things that he tells them is that you are not obligated to partake in battles that transpire as a result of pre-existing fights that we had. And had they not joined the battle, the numbers of Muslims would have been even less. Everybody come, just move up close. It's not a surprise, we do this every Friday. Just come up. There's a lot of people that are coming in, right? We have 2 live stream rooms now downstairs, mashallah. You can come and join in there if you like, and you don't like to be up here. But if you're up here, you got to make room for people. You know what I mean? So just move up, come close, make room for the people next to you. It's one of the reasons why we shower on the day of Jumu'ah, and you should wear nice perfumes and scents, because you're going to get close to the people around you. And this is an opportunity for ajr. They take in your scent, they're increasing in barakah. You're increasing in the sadaqah that you're giving to people. You know what I mean? I forgot what I was talking about. In Badr, they're now in this place where the odds are against them. The second year after Hijrah, they're in a place where they're just getting their bearings still. And where they have very limited odds. Nobody on that field is in a place where they're understanding that the Muslims at the onset are going to be victorious. The Quraysh are not going in thinking that, man, we're going to lose. There's 3 times as many of us. But they have the barakah of Ramadan. And in Ramadan, things that are miraculous take place. A person who struggles with each and every part of the haram, they are now in a place where the haram doesn't even come close to them. You know it because you've experienced it, whether yourself or you know people who are like that. People who walk into spaces where every other individual elevates themselves by denigrating the others, thinking that it is their prerogative to assess somebody else's iman and Islam. You see people standing in the front lines that nobody thinks there's anything good about them. They take on the odds. They take on the challenges. You got to do the same thing. Your Ramadan is about your growth. Don't fall into a place where the naysayers tell you that you cannot live to the best of your capacity. Don't fit into a standard where something of the dunya becomes what it is that keeps you now from your celestial self growing to the capacity that it can. These people stood in a battle in the second year of Hijrah during the month of Ramadan, and they won. What do you think their celebration was like on the day of Eid as they looked back to say what we accomplished in this month? And you got to channel that same energy and recognize that they didn't stop their lives because it was Ramadan. But they did everything that they were supposed to do and even more as the month was transpiring. If you go to the 8th year after Hijrah, the Prophet ﷺ, he has now 8 years prior left his beloved city of Makkatul Mukarramah, goes in a place where the tears are shedding from his eyes as he leaves from the place of his hometown, his homeland, saying that if I was not commanded to, I would not leave you behind. And they come now from Medina all the way back in what is known as the conquest of Mecca, the Fath al-Mecca. Forgiveness is given to each and every home. Nobody is transgressed in that moment. The people, they walk in your Prophet ﷺ, whose conquest is not about externals but inwards. His greater jihad is a one of the self. With humility, they say he just walks with his head looking at the ground. And the people are in shock as to the nature of the mercy that is emanating from these individuals as they go in for the conquest of Mecca. It all happens in Ramadan. All of it is happening in Ramadan. This is how they lived in Ramadan. When Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, he says in Lataif al-Ma'arif, that for 6 months of the year, the companions made dua, Allahumma balighna Ramadan, that, oh Allah, allow for us to reach Ramadan. And for 6 months of the year, their dua was just, Rabbana taqabbal minna, that, oh Allah, accept from us all that we did in Ramadan. It's contextualized in experiences like this. Revelation is initiated in Ramadan. Badr happens in Ramadan. Fath al-Makkah happens in Ramadan. Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha becomes Muslim in Ramadan. The people of Taif come to Islam in Ramadan. You can go on and on and on as to what's happening in Ramadan. But big things happen in Ramadan. Don't miss out for something silly. Don't get to a place where you, in these days, tell yourself that there's difficulty that will transpire, that I can't do certain things because I'm a student. You can definitely do them. Stamp shaitan out of your heart. His waswasa is going to come to you in whatever forms that it can, leading into these last few weeks where you are most vulnerable. Don't let yourself be in a place where you give him victory with ease. You understand who it is that your ancestors actually are. You recognize what it means to be khalaf to a salaf, that is somebody who stood in all kinds of circumstances and still would not let go of the gift, the blessing that is Ramadan. It is there for you to be able to take from it. Musa alayhi salam in a hadith, he is given the gift of speaking to Allah Azza wa Jal. And Musa alayhi salam, he asks Allah Azza wa Jal in relation to this gift that he has been given, that are there any that will come after that will have something that is greater than this? And Allah Azza wa Jal, he tells Musa alayhi salam that, Ya Musa, there will come a people who they will be given this gift that is Ramadan, this gift of this fast. And he begins to describe, then he begins to give details on what these people will be. But telling his noble prophet Moses, peace be upon him, that this is this gift, this ni'mah, that is given to our community. That's you and I. You got to be ready. Don't be scared. You're going to get through every single day if we are amongst those who are blessed to be witnessing it and reaching it. May Allah make us so. And you start to think in these days how you ready yourself in every which way. And what it is that you seek to acquire, the gifts that only a Ramadan can give to you. Building a relationship with the Quran that's not just outward but inward, that you start to manifest what its teachings are. So when you walk on the street, somebody says that that person looks like he actually follows what this book says. That you are in a place where you're not as scared to confront the darkest parts of yourself, that you are willing to engage in self-control and self-restraint, that the first level of fasting is to keep from what is permissible, so that it comes to a second level of fasting that is to now refrain from what is impermissible. And it's not easy to do. We need Ramadan for this. I was like 10 years old. I grew up in Edison, New Jersey. Many of you have been there. It's Browntown. My sister and I, my brother, we grew up at a time when there was a huge influx of South Asians coming in. It didn't look like that in the 80s. In the 90s is when it started to happen. And one of the things that we would normally do is go to a local store on Oak Tree Road that many of you have likely been to if you come from a South Asian background. And we go to one place and we get one of our favorite treats. They were just Rice Krispie treats. We love them. And I remember one day I went to this convenience store on Oak Tree Road and I grabbed 10 or 20 of these Rice Krispie treats, and I walked into my house and I was so happy, showing my sister that look at what I got. And then she sat me down and she opened up the bag and turned it around and pointed to an ingredient. She said, Khalid, we found out that these things have gelatin in them. And I didn't know what to do. I was like 10. So I grabbed the bag and ran into my room and I ate all of them. We all need Ramadan. To understand self-constraints that are not meant to be things that are restrictive, but within that submission to what Allah has set for you as boundaries is the only true source of actual liberation. That you are now not a servant to your whims or your desires. You are not a servant to your stomach or your sexual organs. You are not in a place where hawa, desire, defines and dictates your decisions. You strive each and every day to be the best version of yourself, not rooted in some ambiguous pursuit of purpose, but you open up this book, you look at the prophetic sunnah, and you outline what it means to be good based off of what these things tell you to be good. And then when you slip and you make a mistake, just remember that you have a God that is more merciful than any who show mercy. And Shaitan's trick is not to get you to just commit the deed or the misdeed, but to get you to believe from something that you did that you should not have done, that you are no longer in a place where you can be anywhere close to your Creator. You gotta just throw it all out the window. And you gotta channel the same excitement. I need Ramadan. We need it. It was given to us as a gift. Don't treat it as a secondary. Revolve everything else around it. Think about what your growth trajectory is going to be through the coming days that yield to you the best in that month. The hadith tells us that the Prophet ﷺ would fast in this month of Sha'ban. You fast too. Start reading your Quran from now. Be on top with your prayers. Get out of your system whatever you need that gets you through the day, that's caffeinated, so that you don't have headaches on the first day or the first week, but you're meeting it with a certain air of encouragement and light. And if you have a problem controlling your tongue, you better get it in check now. Because you don't want to be the reason as to why any person that comes into this space to pray, to break their fasts, to be a part of gatherings of the divine, feels as if they are not meant to be here because of the way that you talk to them or about them. Spread greetings of peace. Be a source of light and upliftment. Somebody's struggling, that's part of what this is, mujahida. Everybody's not going to be where everyone else is, and all of us have something going on. That's why all of us need this month of Ramadan. May Allah make us from those who reach it and benefit from it. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسول. Inshallah ta'ala, next Thursday, about 200 of us from this community are going to be leaving to perform Umrah, visiting the illuminated city, Madinatul Munawwara, the city of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And from there we will be going to Makkatul Mukarramah to perform the Umrah. If any of you need anything from those places, please let us know, and we'll do our best to facilitate. And whether you ask for it or not, just know with confidence that each one of you and your loved ones are in my continued prayers always. You can't go to a place like that and not remember the people that you love. And where and how people have asked me, alhamdulillah, I say it, inshallah, free of arrogance. May Allah forgive me if it's there. But this is the third time I'm going from Umrah since June of last year. And they say more than like 10, 15 people in the last week have said, does it get just stale? Do you feel nothing after you go so many times? Like, no, man. These things are given to us as gifts. They don't ever get old. You go through these places and you experience these things, and they're all meant to be sources of replenishment and rejuvenation. We go for Umrah next week as an intention to be ready for Ramadan. I can't serve this community and not stand in front of the Kaaba and ask Allah to accept all of your du'as in Ramadan. So how could it be something that its effect just wears off? That's the same thing with Ramadan. Every year is supposed to be replenishing. Every year is supposed to be a source of growth. As hard as it is, you got to dig deep and confront the darkest parts of yourself and see with complete vulnerability that what you are putting into it is going to yield you what you get out of it. But where we carry you all in our du'as, so make du'a for the group that is going. Sheikh Fiaz just took about 80 people, mashallah, in February. We're taking about 200 this March. It's the first time we've taken the community since before the pandemic. And our intention is to start a lot of these things as we did prior to, but keep us in your prayers as well. You all will be in ours continued, inshallah. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad في الأولين وفي الآخرين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah, and beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present herein and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, whether we are Muslim or come from a different walk of life, Ya Rabbi, if our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all other hearts that are gathered here, only at this time, at this place, then gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Increase us, Ya Allah, in all that is good. Make us from amongst those who reach the blessed month of Ramadan. Allow for us to approach it in a way that we meet it in our very best state. Make us those who utilize these days in anticipation of those days, and let not any one of us meet it in a state other than what is most pleasing to you. Help us to not see it in a way that is about empty stomachs and thirsty throats, but allow for us to see it as a means to fill our hearts and replenish parts of ourselves that long to be revitalized. So many of us are exhausted, Ya Rabbi. So many of us are in a state of weariness and tired. So many of us are burdened by the heavy parts of this world, Ya Allah, that each and every day throws to us more and more in terms of darkness upon darkness. Illuminate us through the coming month of Ramadan, Ya Allah, and make us a source of light for your creation through it. Help us to remember that we are Muslims, Ya Rabbi, and that we are meant to be different from those that come from different walk of life. Not in a way that we separate or chastise others, but in a way that we remember always who our teacher is, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and that we walk through every challenge that this world throws upon us with perseverance, resilience, in anticipation of the best in the world beyond this one. Ya Allah, make us people of Jannah. Ya Allah, for all those who are experiencing difficulty in this world at this time, we ask on this blessed day of Jumu'ah that you grant them ease. For our brothers and sisters in Palestine, Ya Rabbi, where there is escalating violence taking place just as we are standing in these moments, we ask, Ya Allah, that you grant them relief and make us a means of benefit for them. Make us a generation that sees a free Palestine in our lives. And make us from amongst those who bear witness and are able to see an end to the unjust occupation that is taking place there. Make things easy for our brothers and sisters in Turkey and Syria, for all those impacted by the earthquake that took place, and for so many years prior, civil war and conflict. And this world is now at a time in its history that there are more refugees than at any time other than this time. Ya Allah, grant them ease and make us a source of benefit for them. Make this a community that lives up to its title of being a community that is generous. Help us to be like your Prophet ﷺ, who in Ramadan was more generous than any other time of the year. Give us the strength to fast in the days that are ahead and to stand into the late hours of the night calling upon you, asking of you to fulfill our most secret of desires, to grant ease to those who are beloved to us, and to give to us only the best in this world and the best in the next. Ya Allah, allow for us to reach this month of Ramadan. Ya Allah, allow for us to reach the coming month of Ramadan. Ya Allah, make us from amongst those who benefit from the coming month of Ramadan. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وقيم الصلاة.
We hope you enjoyed our podcast. If you're inspired by the work that we're doing at the IC and want to help keep it going, subscribe to our podcasts, follow us on social media, donate to help support us at ICNYU.org, and most importantly, keep us in your continued du'as. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.